Hey there guys, it's Rick Utzer here with AirgunWeb and AirgunWebTV, and this is the Air Arms S510 FAC, that's the high-powered model, regulated. Stay with us. So before we get started, I want to say thank you to Air Arms for sponsoring AirgunWeb in these videos. They make exquisite air guns, and this is just one of the mainstays, and I believe this was voted the air gun of the year over in the UK. Just a phenomenally good air gun, and Air Arms, gosh, everything they make just shoots great. And this gun is no exception. So I know I just did a video on this for Pyramid Air, but we're gonna wrap around and kind of address a couple questions some people had. And also I wanna let you guys know that this gun, remember I told you that this is part of the AirgunWeb family? Well, it is, and it's going to another member of the family, and that's Airgun Angie. This is on its way to her as soon as I'm done this video. So I bet you she's gonna have a lot of really great videos for you guys, kind of walking through all the cool things about this gun, because it's gonna be her first really experience with a high-end air gun. So I'm super excited to see that. Make sure you tune in and watch that. But in my last video, there was a couple questions that got posed, and I kind of wanted to address those. And so let's get into it. So this is the XS version of the 510. I love the 510. I've owned 510s. I've bought 510s. They are just great air guns. Now the regulator kind of takes the 510 to the next level in modern air gunning because it really gives you the consistency. And for those folks out there that don't know what a regulator is, let me see if I can kind of break it down for you. So the way like the old pre-charged guns would work is you had pressure in this cylinder, you had a valve, and you had a spring, and then you had a hammer. And so the sort of shutting the valve was determined in the pressure. So if you've got this much pressure here, you've got to hit the valve so hard to open it, let so much air out, and then the pressure shuts the valve again. So you got springs and hammer weight and all this kind of stuff, and hammer spring and all these things happening that they sort of balance to get like within this pressure range. It's pretty equal. But if you put too much pressure in, there's so much pressure here that you can't open the valve. That's called valve lock. And then when you get sort of near the other end where you have less pressure, the hammer hits it, it opens it up too much, and you're just wasting a bunch of air. Well, the whole point of a regulator is it regulates that. So what you have is you have high pressure here, you have a regulator that sits sort of in this area. And what the regulator does is it says, I'm only going to give you this much air at this much pressure. So when you hit the valve, it lets that out, and then the pressure here then fills in that space again. That space is called the plenum. So you have that sort of regulated output, which is perfect because now you can actually put more pressure here. So previously where you may valve lock the gun, now you won't, because that regulator only lets in what it needs to give you that consistent shot output. So a couple things happen with that. One, you get more consistency. It's sort of like if you're reloading a firearm and you're counting each and every grain. You know, that's how you're going to be super precise in your loads. If you're just eyeballing it and throwing powder in the shell, not going to be nearly as precise. Well, regulated is like measuring each and every grain. It gives you that consistency shot to shot. So the other thing about it is because we have more pressure here, we can get more shots because you can take the cylinder up. Previously you would valve lock, not anymore. That means now you get more shots. So that's how a regulator works, and that's why this gun it just takes what was already awesome and makes it that much better in my opinion. So the next thing we were talking about in my previous video was kind of the different power outputs. And this does have a 5-way selector. And why would you want that? You probably just want to run full tilt high power. Well, if you're out hunting or you're shooting at 50, 75, 100 yards, yeah, you want high power. But what if you're shooting in your backyard? What if you're shooting in your basement? What if you just want to get some trigger time and you're not trying to kill something? Well, that's when you can actually turn the power down and you get more shots. Now, there was a comment saying, no, you won't get any more shots. Well, we did a little testing. Let's see what we found out. So I topped the gun off using a regulated output. So each time I filled it, it was identical to the previous time. I shot 30 shots at high power with the 15.89s. And after 30 shots, I was sitting just under 200 bar, like about 190, 195 bar. Now, I topped it back off and I shot on like power level 3. So where on high power, I'm shooting at 900 and some change, on like middle power, I'm shooting at 770 and some change. So it's right in that. So we're about 130 feet per second slower with the same weight pellet. So really what that means is it's using less air to go out the barrel, and guess what? You do get more shots. So after 30 shots on medium power, I was sitting over 200 bar, maybe like 210, 205, 210. So you're definitely gonna get more shots with a lower power setting. It's what I said in the last video. I want to let you know, we tested it and my assumptions were correct. Now, as far as accuracy goes, last time we shot, it was really windy, and guess what? Today, still windy. But we managed to actually have a little better conditions, and I wanted to show a couple different things. So the first thing I wanted to do is I knew that the Air Arms 18 grain pellets were going to be awesome, and they were. It only took me a couple shots. New scope, by the way, because Angie's getting this Frontier awesome scope, and we also captured the footage with the PhoneSkope, so you get to see some of that today. That's cool. So she's going to be able to kind of show you the same sort of thing when she gets it. That's super cool. But onto the target now. So in 3 shots, I'm basically where I need to be. And my first shot group, I was pulling just a little to the right. As you see here, I was still just a little bit right of center. So I decided to go ahead and adjust the scope for my second shot group, and it's a technique thing. Once I got my technique down, you can see all of my shots just drilled out the center. That's what I wanted to see in my last video, but the wind was terrible. Today we still had a little bit of a breeze, but I'm telling you, that's what you're gonna get out of this gun time and time again. At 50 yards, you should be shooting 1/2-inch groups. If you're doing your part, this gun is just awesome. Now, another thing somebody brought up recently was, why don't I shoot, we'll call them big box pellets? So let me put this into perspective. So a premium pellet like an Air Arms, JSB, H&N, etc., it could be 2 to 3 times as much money as, say, the Crosman pellets. So you got to decide, is absolute pure precision what I'm going for, or do you just want something to shoot? Because if you just want to go out and have a good time shooting, the Crosman pellets may actually be sufficient. So my first group with the Crosmans, as you can see, they just weren't as consistent. We had some, I mean, it's not a bad group and it's pretty tight, but it didn't have that where you had just multiple pellets kind of going through the same hole. And my second group, it sort of spread out a little bit more, and we started to get in these sort of flyers, and that's really what happens with the more affordable sort of big box pellets. They're not as quality controlled, and they will have cast lines. They'll have all kinds of things that really won't give you that super consistency that you're going to find in a premium pellet. Now, does that mean you should never use them? No, if you're happy with them. And look, if I was out hunting, that would be just as dead as that. So if I was at 50 yards hunting jackrabbit, either pellet is going to work just fine. Personally, I would want to pay a little bit more so that I can have that super precision and have that extra consistency that I want. But that doesn't mean that what I want to do is what you need to do. You do whatever you feel comfortable with. And if you want to go out and shoot Crosman pellets because you can grab them off the shelf, go for it. I'm happy you're shooting. But you guys wanted to see sort of the difference. That's the difference. So what's next for this gun? Well, I'm packing this up and it's going to Airgun Angie over in South Carolina. She's got some very cool things planned for the rest of the year with this, and I'm very excited to see what she's got going on. Guys, that's it for now. My name's Rick Utzler. Thanks for watching.